Board games! Okay, so this week there was so much board game playing. I'm really happy about it. Like, I think ever since he was born, Liz and I have played one, maybe two board games, and even in the past year, like, you know, I remember the summer where we moved in, we played like 30 games of Race for the Galaxy, Liz and I, and yeah, that all just kind of took a backseat to all the other crazy stuff going on, extra jobs and prepping for him, and everything since he's come. And so, because James and Kelsey are both really big board games players, and now Stevie too, we kind of turned him on to that, we played a lot of games. So, this probably won't be chronological, but just a few quick thoughts on the dozen or so games, seriously, that we played multiple times. Terra Neo. Right off the bat, Stevie really liked this game. He was like, why did we play Rum Run last time? This is a much better game than that. Terra Neo is a game by myself and my friend Dan King. It's where you play as gods, little demigods that are creating a new world, and you all want to be sharing like kind of the Zeusy powers of this world, and you're working together, and you build, you're building land, and then you're also putting down temples and trying to get worshippers, and then the worshippers hopefully worship you the most, and you win the game if the world is complete and you have the most resonant temples. Resonance is what determines how great your worshippers are. So that was really great. We played that probably 6 or 7 times. Oh, by the way, here's my Christmas shirt. And I think everyone got a good kick out of developing different strategies, using god powers in different ways. Really cool, happy with that game. And I hate to say this and love to say it, but it's got some really good ideas for ways to revise the game to make it even better. I'm going to say that's a good thing. I just got to find the time to do it. Along with, you know, editing Dystopia Baby and all these other million projects that are on the back burner for now. You know, stuff that I thought I was going to do this Christmas break, but have been so busy having a good time, none of them happened, which is totally cool. And then, what's next? Let's go. Next up, Seven Wonders. Kelsey brought all of his expansions and has some really cool like layout stuff, mats and whatnot that make the game look really pretty. We had a great time playing that. I find that I like the wonders a lot that give you not just victory points for building wonders, but actually like cool abilities. Technology trees can be really incredible in Seven Wonders. So the other night, I think we played 3 games of it while they were here, and on this last game I got 50 points just from my technology tree, partially because I had both a leader and a wonder ability that were both like, you know, a technology point, and so that ended up with one tree of just, you know, slide rules or whatever that was 50 points. Seven Wonders I really like a lot. Oh, let's do rankings real quick. Terra Neo I really like, but it's designed by me. 4 stars with confidence. 4. Seven Wonders I think it can be a nice short game for if everyone knows what they're doing. Nice levels of strategy. I still kind of like the house rules Liz and I were playing originally, where we get to draft the 7 cards before actually playing them. I thought that was kind of a nice touch versus the like play a card, get a bunch of new stuff. But still a great game. I give it 4 stars with a confidence 4. Next up, Liz for Christmas got me a really cool game called like Castle for the Mad King Edmund or something like that. And our friend Morgan actually also got this same game for Christmas, so that's really cool. I'd never heard of it, but it reminds me a little bit of Alhambra. There's like an architectural component in Alhambra. You're building a palace. Here you're building a castle, and then you get points for like what the castles, the different adjacencies in the rooms are. It's a little bit, I think, like the algorithm in The Sims, and how that worked for giving you, you know, room points for, you know, how pretty your house was, and that kind of thing. Quick pause. But I like that game a lot. We played it twice. I had a really good time both times. Second time we realized we'd forgotten a few rules. We added some extra money and that kind of thing. It's kind of like Puerto Rico, where the rooms that weren't chosen in the first round, you get to choose them later. There's some nice little victory point kind of situations, objectives that help focus what your goal should be during the game. I'm finding that I like games a lot more that allow for that kind of like, oh yeah, this would be a good strategy to pursue, rather than just like, yeah, pick something and go wild. It's nice to have little incentives to go in a certain direction. I know Dan King disagrees with me on some of that stuff. That's okay. For quick little things, we played a game Kelsey knows and has called Code Word, which we didn't actually have the real rules or setup for it, so we just made it work. A very simple game, anyone wants to play it. It's a great party game. You make a grid, put a bunch of random words in it, and then there's a spy master and then their team, and the spy master, kind of in a Pictionary kind of way, is trying to get their team to guess the words on the board that are there. So out of the like 25 words, they usually have like 7 or 8 that belong to them. There's neutral words, and there's also like a black ball word, like an 8-ball in pool, where if anyone guesses that word, then that team loses. And so it's tricky because a lot of times you'll have words on the board that are similar, and the way to really win is you need to give a clue that's going to lead them to multiple words. There's no theme or anything, but if there's like dog and horse and comedian there, and you're playing with someone who knows who John Mulaney is, maybe your code word is Mulaney, and you hope that they get those 3 words from that. Who knows? But yeah, it's a really fun game, really simple. Played it a bunch of times, only takes a few minutes. Next up, moving right along, we played Game of Thrones. This was the first game of Game of Thrones I played that actually ended, first of all, in a reasonable amount of time, and also through having enough castles to win. Won by me. I played the Greyjoys. Playing against Stevie, he was playing the Lannisters. I kept him so busy up north he never really had time to move south. I pretty much destroyed him. I had an alliance with Kelsey. He was playing the Starks, and we both just kind of moved southward and were grabbing castles as we went. And then when I had 4 or 5 or 1 less than the castle needed to win, I just moved over and took one of Kelsey's really easy ones and finished the game pretty quick. Game of Thrones, I do think it's a game that's a little bit too long to play with anyone who isn't a super dedicated board gamer, but in this situation it went pretty well. It's a lot to keep track of, but I give it 4 stars with confidence of 3. I guess most of these games are 4 stars. Like, I always see little ways to improve them, but they're really fun games, very well designed, well thought out. Buddy, okay, we're gonna pause. I think Alistair just wants to be horizontal for a minute, so he's just lying down right over there. Totally fine. I'm not being a bad father, I promise. And really quick, so more board games. Arkham Horror we played. Arkham Horror is a game that Liz and Kelsey both love. I'm a little bit more ambivalent about it, but I see the fun in it. It's a good storytelling game. It has kind of a D&D quality. Everyone has a character with a backstory and different abilities and skills and hit points and all that. Sanity and stamina are kind of your mental and physical energy, and it's kind of interesting to go through the game, and there's all these monsters you're fighting off. You're trying to close portals. If you can close enough portals, 5 I think, then you win the game. If not, then eventually you're going to get some giant Cthulhu-esque, H.P. Lovecraftian monster, and it's horrible and evil, and you have a very small chance of beating it. We played 2 games. The first one we played, we won. We closed enough portals. The second game, we weren't quick enough, and this giant evil monster came out and decimated, consumed all of us. It was very sad. We were actually pretty close to winning, so it's a good teamwork game. Speaking of other co-op games, we played Pandemic. Pandemic was a game that I think just Liz and I had played out of all the group of people we were playing with, and just another good co-op game. Everything moves very well. I'd say actually both Pandemic and Arkham Horror I would give 3 stars with a confidence of 4. They're not my favorite games, but I think they're very well designed, and I certainly don't mind playing them at all. Next up, we played Innovation, which is a game that is by Carl Chudik.
Horror gets a 5.
Innovation, which is a game that I haven't played in years. It's by Carl Chudik, designer who I actually knew a little bit through the Game Crafter, because he had a really cool game on there called Root Word. Really simple, fun, word-laying game. And Innovation is a game that's basically the tech tree from Civilization or Age of Empires or anything like that, where you're going through all these ages with all these different innovations, so to speak, inventions, everything from like, the invention of the wheel, paper, sailing. You don't actually have to know anything about any of those innovations, but there's kind of a corresponding ability path as you progress through that, and the abilities get more and more insane as you go further in the game. There's basically your actions are drawing cards, melding cards, playing actions on cards, etc., etc. It's a very simple card game, but I like it a lot because there's a cool splaying factor where the icons on your cards matter, and at first they're all stacked up, so you only get the icons that are visible, but then you start splaying them, you pull them out left, right, up, and then in that order you get more and more icons exposed, and then you're able to basically command other players to do certain things or share actions with them, which ends up making for a really cool game, especially towards the end when you start getting to age 10, which is like now, with crazy quantum physics and telescope technology and space travel and all this kind of cool stuff. There's things that basically say like, if you can do this right now, you win the game, or destroy all the other players' layouts, tableaus, whatever. And so that's a crazy game, but really fun, pretty quick if everyone knows what they're doing. Innovation, I give 4 stars with a confidence of 5. used to play it all the time. I haven't played it for a while. Still a really good game. Echoes of the Past, the expansion, we didn't play with it. Still not totally sold on that. I'll have to play that a few more times. Last game, Morgan for Christmas got us a game called Splendor, which I've mostly only seen as an app available for purchase, but it's a really fun game. I see why it probably works really well as an app, because there's a really simple kind of like, look at all these cards, pick one, buy it, move on. And so Liz turned out to be really good at this game because it kind of takes a similar approach to Ticket to Ride. By the way, we played a ton of Ticket to Ride, the app. We had it on Steam, Kindle Fire, and phone, and we're sharing all that between them, as well as Race for the Galaxy. Both those games I love a lot. I don't really need to talk more about them, but Ticket to Ride, I have no interest in playing the physical board game version, but the app version I think moves very well. Splendor moves quickly enough because it's mostly cards, and I really actually like how the pieces feel, that I'm sure the app version is fantastic, but playing the physical version is also quite nice. There's a real gemmy kind of quality to the whole thing. It's really nice. And so basically that game really simple. You have different jewels laid out all over the place, and then you are collecting jewels and you're trying to buy jewels, which then basically become like permanent resources available to you kind of like Ticket to Ride, or not Ticket to Ride, kind of like Seven Wonders, where those are just available for you to use for purchase every time, and then you're trying to eventually get jewels that, in addition to giving you another jewel to have as something to spend, give you victory points. There's also these guys called nobles, where you just automatically get them, kind of like an objective card if you're able to get the jewels that fulfill those things, and then you get a bunch of points, and it's great. Really fun game. Thanks to Morgan. Liz is great at it, and I think that's all 57 board games we played over this past week and a half. Ha!